Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about planets in your different houses of your horoscope and what do the planets mean. Okay, so first I would like to explain to you what a Vedic astrology chart is like. Okay, you can get your chart pulled up from any of the reputed websites and then watch my videos on what all the houses represent. Okay, once you understand what all the houses represent, then you can watch this video on what all the planets represent. I'm going to have this video in different series also. So today we're going to talk about one planet, and in next video another planet. But we're going to talk about the qualities, the characteristics of the planets, what they do when they're sitting in different houses, etc. But I want to give you a little bit of a basic overview again, if you haven't watched the other video. This is your Vedic astrology chart. It represents 12 houses in your horoscope. You can pull your horoscope on any of the popular websites, good websites, and then once you pull up your horoscope, now you can see the planets that are sitting in your horoscope. This is how the houses, this will always be your house 1, and then this will always be your house 2. This will always be your house 3, and so on. So in your chart, you will not see the Roman numerals. You'll only see the regular numbers. You will not see these numbers. They will be different. This is a Kalpurush Kundali, which means the first house is the first lord, and then so on. But you may have a different planet transiting through it. I'm going to try to put a link to that video in this description, in this video's description, so you can click on that video. I've really explained it in much more detail on how your chart works, etc. But let's go ahead and go into planets, okay? Today we're gonna talk about in Kalpurush Kundali who owns what house, and we're gonna talk about their characteristics, okay? So the number that I'm sitting here now, number 1, not the Roman numeral, but the number 1 that's sitting in the first house. What is 1? Wherever you see the number 1 in your chart is going to represent planet Mars, okay? That's an Aries number, okay? As you know your horoscopes, you're going to see 1, you're going to say Aries. So it represents planet Mars. Mars rules Aries. So that house will automatically get the characteristics of Mars. Today we're going to talk about Sun. In my previous videos, I've mentioned Moon, I've mentioned Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and others. Now let's talk about Sun. What does the Sun represent in your chart? Let's go all into it. So Sun is the original owner of House 5. What does House 5 represent? So definitely check out my other videos on all the houses. House 5 represents your past life good deeds. It represents your status, your fame, overall status and fame. It represents your children, represents your self-expression, especially your first child. It represents your self-expression. It represents your love, romance, those kind of things. The Sun is also your soul, okay? Wherever Sun is sitting, that part you love with your soul, basically. Your soul finds the most happiness in that house, wherever it is, okay? So soul, Sun represents the soul. Sun also represents your right eye. Sun represents your ego as well, okay? It represents your power, your fame, royalty, your king-like qualities. It represents your arrogance also. If you have an afflicted Sun, somehow in connection with Saturn, it can represent your arrogance and your ego. So please watch out for that if you have that in your database, in your chart. Sun represents father, okay? If you have any connection with Saturn and Sun, you could have father-son issues with your father or with your son. So there's a lot of things. Sun represents your self-expression, as I mentioned. Represents your children also, because it's the owner of House 5, original owner, and House 5 represents your children. So let's talk about if you have Sun sitting in your first house. I mean, check out my video on Sun in all houses, but this is just for reference. You could be a very egoistic person. You That ego could come because of all the qualities that you're going to have. You're going to be shining like anything, like the sun is shining. It means you're born in the morning hours. You are a shining personality. You have the power. You have the intelligence. You have the fame. You know it. You have the king-like qualities. You're very disciplined. Like sun comes at a certain time, sets at a certain time. Very disciplined. You're going to have like a father-like qualities to everybody. When you come to the room, your speech is going to be very authoritative. People will listen to you. You'll have a certain kind of aura. You're going to be a shining star, just like the sun. With that comes ego. With that comes arrogance. Especially if it's afflicted, that's going to be quite a bit. Say your lord of your first house, is Leo. You have Leo rising. Now, your ruler is the sun. You're going to have a lot of sun qualities. So if there's afflictions, if you got Saturn sitting there, that could be tough for you. Because your qualities of a king-like, but at the same time, you have the Saturn qualities of, Saturn is considered slave in the hierarchy because it wants to work with a servient attitude, wants you to work with a servient attitude. That's an affliction there. You could have other aspects on your first house too. Now, you may not treat your spouse right. Sun is exalted in the first house. Watch out my videos on exaltation and debilitation. The sun is exalted in the first house, which means it already begins with an ego. It's born with an ego if you have sun in the first house. So if you see your relationship suffering, especially with your partner, and you have sun in the first house, definitely watch that arrogance, watch that ego, especially with your spouse, because you're looking at your spouse with a debilitated aspect, and you want to bring your spouse up to your level, but you quite don't know how to. You're understanding your spouse like, hey, why aren't you coming up to my level? What's going on with you? But your spouse is at its own level. It can't come up to your level that quickly. You are born like a sun. So watch out for that ego and that arrogance with everybody, but especially your partner if you have sun in your first house. Now let's talk about if you have sun in the seventh house. We're just going to flip it real quick. Now you are sitting in a debilitated sign where you have no ego, okay? You're sitting in a debilitated sign. Your sun is sitting in a debilitated sign. Seventh house is your spouse, your partners. So your partners are sitting there. They are rising stars. They are shining stars, but there's no ego there because it's debilitated. You on the first house may feel that you're being dominated by the spouse, which you perhaps aren't, but you may feel that way. Its sun is giving you your exalted look on the first house. So sun is sitting in seventh house. It's shining its light on that first house, making you feel exalted, making you feel like you're getting an ego. So again, wherever sun is placing an aspect or sitting in, you got to watch out for ego with you and fix that ego and the arrogance that you may get. But those are the qualities of sun. If you have sun in your fifth house, that's sun sitting in its own original house, and you're probably one of the purest souls ever. And again, depending on any afflictions, this could impact it a little bit, but your children could be famous, you could be famous, your self-expression, your children's self-expression, great. If you have sun sitting in your 10th house, you could perhaps, depending on you could be famous by your work, So check out my videos on sun and all signs. But I hope this was a good video for you to understand a little bit about the qualities of sun. So we do personal horoscope consultations. We do personal horoscope consultations. So reach out to us if we could be of help to you. All right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a good day. Oh, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any updates. Thank you.